Hi there, folks. Saberford here, back with another quick little video. We are about a week out. Actually, the end of this week, we will start with the pre-release events leading it up to Jump to Lightspeed. And I just wanted to put a little quick guide out here for winning your pre-release, or at least going out and having some fun with it. So, little bit of the contents here. First off, if you haven't liked the channel already, please do subscribe to the channel. We started this with the Jump to Lightspeed previews, and it's growing nicely, having some fun with it. Like to grow a little bit more with us, then come right along. What's going to be in this video? We're going to talk about the rules and what's different between a sealed and a draft. We'll talk a little bit about what's in a pack and what to expect, and then choosing a leader and how you build a deck. And we'll close with just a little quick story of pre-release events that I've done in the past. So as far as rules go, the differences between sealed play and draft play. In sealed play and in draft play, both of which you're going to open up your packs, you're going to do a little bit of work, you're going to get some time for deck building, and then kind of depending on your store and your situation, FFG recommends 50 to 55 minutes for deck building, and then about that same amount per round with a best of 3. And that's usually pretty easy to do when you're talking about 30 card decks. So the difference between the two. Sealed play, you are going to get every single card that you open. Means that you're only going to use the packs that you open. For pre-release and for pre-release only, you also are allowed to use the extra leaders. In this case, that would be Han Solo and Boba Fett, which means that you'll have access to up to 8 leaders depending on what are in your packs. There is no disclosure required in sealed play. You're not handing cards to anyone. You don't have to show them what you've pulled. Nothing is required of you. But that said, you get no assistance from the draw. So whatever it is you get, and whatever other players get, they get. There's not going to be a time where you pass back. It's a 30-card minimum build time per announced rules, similar to draft. For draft play, what you'll do is that each player will open the 3 packs that they've got. They will remove the leaders from it, and then you will draft leaders prior to anything else. And so this lets you know going in a little bit about what your strategy might be with the draft, because you know what you have available to you as far as leaders go. The table will see most of each pack because you're passing them to the left and right as you go back and forth between the rounds, and the leaders will guide the choices that you have. So a thing that you should know and a thing that you should understand as you go into sealed play is what is in a pack. Now, this is nothing new. A 16-card pack will include 1 leader. It'll include 1 base. It'll include 9 commons, 3 uncommons, 1 rare, and 1 foil. Now, keep in mind that there are times where a hyperspace card in an uncommon spot might yield either a legendary card or a rare card, and foil can be a legendary or a rare. So you could have 3 rares or 3 legendaries in a single pack. You also could wind up with a rare base, and so you could wind up getting a complete dud of a pack that way. But you will get at least 1 leader, 1 base per, and the base is inconsequential because in any of these formats you are allowed to choose any color of base that you want. What are the indications for deck building here? Well, that means that out of sealed play, which is what we're talking about here, you're going to get roughly 54 common cards, 18 uncommons, 6 rares, and 6 foils, which can be anything. So as you can see there, you're much like the pack breakdown, you're 9 times as common. You're 9 times as likely to have a common card as you are a rare card. So you're going to be leaning on them pretty heavily. Things to do before your pre-release and how to choose a leader. Number 1 is to prepare, and really nothing can substitute for that. Understanding what the common leaders are, especially because they are the ones that you are most likely to see in packs, is critical to really understanding what you're going to be looking at and what you're drawing. Now, this game is such where as long as you understand kind of card play, you can very easily go into one of your sealed events, know almost nothing about the set, and be perfectly fine as long as you understand how to play the game. So don't let that dissuade you if you're a new player. You don't have to know these cards. You don't have to know much more than the basic rules. And you can sit down and enjoy a good game of Star Wars Unlimited. But if you are looking to play this with any kind of competitive, or you're going to sit down and play with some of your friends, just understand that here's what's most common. In this set, that means Thrawn, Rose, Vader, Wedge, Vonreg, Luke, Rio, and Akbar are the things you are more likely to see as your leaders, along with Boba Fett and Han Solo. Sort your cards. Do it as you go. Just as you're pulling those things out, the commonality, the uncommons, the rare, it really doesn't matter as you're getting those things sorted. We're wanting to create card pools. So divide by aspect, divide by hero and villain. And as you get them sorted and as you get those packs broken down, look for a strong balance of units, because you're only playing a 30-card deck. Get a good count, understand what you have the most of, and since you understand what your leaders do, you can start to kind of figure out a preliminary best pool. And that again goes to what do you have the most of and what do you have the best progression in. You know, if I've got the most of blue, but the majority of it starts at 4, I don't have a great progression in blue. Similarly, if I have everything that's green and I don't have the right leader set for it, then that's great. I might use it as my second color, but it doesn't really, it might not be the right match for it. Align those choices to your available leaders, and remember, you can choose any base. So whatever it is that you have the second most of, or that splashes best with your leader, doesn't matter if it matches the color of your leader. You can pick any base that's on the table, and then pick a leader out of what you get that complements what you have to play with. So, you know, if you've got a bunch of First Order, which there's a little bit of that tribe here in this set, and you manage to pull Phasma, then, you know, that might be the right fit for you. But if you've got a bunch of First Order and you've got a bunch of ground units, it probably isn't in your best interest to play Darth Vader. Building a deck. This is the common game for the common man. You are going to be smashing a lot of units into other units and smashing a lot of units into bases, trying to get things done in a deck that is only 30 cards deep. You're going to see 1/5 of them in your opening hand, and you're going to blow through them pretty quick. The bulk of what you're going to use are going to be commons, and so understanding those commons and what you're looking for is kind of a priority as you're building that deck. Keep in mind, you've got time, right? You've got 45, 50 minutes once you've got everything sorted. If you're slow at sorting the cards, you probably still have 50 minutes to put a deck together. Look through them, understand them, read what's there, know what you're looking for among your commons and among your units that are the base of your deck. There is no limit to how many of a particular card you can put in your deck in sealed play. If you open 7 Red Squadron Y-Wings, you can drop 7 of them in the deck. You go right on ahead. That rule is suspended in this type of play specifically. And so you do have the flexibility if you have a lot of strong early game units and you want to make sure that you've got one on the table and that you can keep pumping those things out, put them in there. Go for it. The key here is not to miss a turn 1 deployment, because it's a 30-card deck. You're going to go through most of it really quickly. You're probably going to see 2/3 of that thing over the course of a game, unless you don't have something on the table to start with, and you're just going to wind up behind and chasing. Try to prioritize units that can value trade or that have impact beyond their stats. And I've dropped a few of those here. So the examples that I pulled up for you, something like the Onyx Squadron Brute, which lets me, it's a decent body for a 2-drop, 5 stats, deals 2 damage, and when it dies, heals 2 damage from my base. A TIE Bomber, which, it's a 0 attack, but it deals 3 indirect damage on attack, and it's got 4 health, so it's sticking around through most things. The same with that Red Squadron Y-Wing, except we get 1 attack there, we give up 1 health, and on attack, deal 3 indirect. And so both of those fit kind of the same spot, and for different sides. With the TIE Bomber probably being a little bit more versatile just because you have only villainy on it as opposed to being aggression and heroism. And then your Resistance X-Wing, which is a nice generic 2/2, but with a pilot on it, it gains an added +1/+1. And so this is a very pilot-heavy set, which means that Resistance X-Wing can very quickly jump to a 4 or 5 power right out of the gate, and be a very impactful unit as early as turn 2. Uncommon results. This is where you're going to see more of your synergy-based cards. And you'll want to pick things that interact with your leaders where possible. Now, again, something like Darth Vader, vehicles what matter. And it might not be your uncommons that even go for that. Your uncommons might just be better vehicles. But here what we're looking at is that we're looking for the top end of our curve is probably an uncommon rather than a big rare legendary. And we want to really consider how far we intend to resource in a game. These are the most likely cards to swing a game in your advantage. And also that is amplified by the fact that they're cards that you might have 2 of, but you're not really guaranteed to just because of the lack of density overall. You're only going to have 18 of these things total. And so the chance that you're going to have 2 or 3 War Juggernauts is pretty small. But I've thrown some examples here just so you can see them, like how impactful these can be. Like the War Juggernaut is probably the top end of what I'm going for in anything red in sealed play. But my goodness, you talk about an impactful unit. In a game where units kind of slam back and forth into each other, it can spray out damage to whatever's there and then gets +1/+0 for every damaged unit, and that includes yours. Damages itself, gets +1. Damages everything. It damages all your units. Doesn't matter. Gets +1 for every single one of them. Captain Phasma is another great one when played in on attack. She's got a nice little impact on a big body at 5. And then Gold Leader back in here at 6 with shielded. Hard unit to get rid of in space, especially when units that attack into it get -1/-0. So you really, your opponents are going to have to do some work to get Gold Leader off the table if you get it on there. And the last thing here is just be lucky. So a little story from set 2. I sat down to play in my second pre-release event, and as I'm sitting down to play there, I opened up my packs. The set leaders were really of no use to me. I opened up 3 rays and a fin. Yeah, you can see where this is going. I got Dr. Alpha. Nope, not going there. And I think I got Jabba, which, maybe, except that the green pool that I had was just non-existent ability. And so I really had nothing to play with and no options except for Rey, because I got a pretty dense array of blue and heroism blue. Well, my other density was in aggression. And so as I'm sitting here trying to build my deck, what you're looking at is the best 3-drop that I had. Yeah, a 1-cost unit out of aspect from green. Now he's not bad, and in Rey, I'm able to bump him to a 3/4 restore 1. That's not a bad place to play him, but definitely not ideal. But that's to say that your out of aspect cards, you're going to have some in a sealed deck. It's just going to happen. Or you're going to wind up with several neutral cards that go into your deck that you might not have played with otherwise. Be aware of kind of what they do and how they can help you. This guy was invaluable to me. I wound up second place at that event. And why I say be lucky is that the deck that I lost to was a Gar Saxon who also drew a Darksaber. So I don't think anybody was going to be able to stop him, because that means that he got the generic Mandalorians too, and everything gets +1 and throws the experience tokens around. Oh, you talk about a mess. That deck murdered everyone that was there. But sometimes that's what's going to happen. So enjoy the pre-releases. I hope you are ready for Jump to Lightspeed coming up this next week, and we'll see you around.